Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to Culver's Corner for another fortnight and another go around. This one, very simple, just a topical vignette, I think. I know as a teacher, it's sort of the kind of thing that you go, oh, gee, well, if only we trained our pre-service teachers, our baby teachers, did our initial teacher education or ITE way better, then teaching would be much better, and there would be much less of that famous first 5 years attrition, which is a fancy word for saying teachers who leave and don't come back. If only we could do that better, and having a limited exposure to the process of training new teachers, it makes you realize just how complicated it is. So I was in a session not that long ago, and you've got your baby teachers, and you think, okay, well, let's think about how this should be relatively straightforward. I'll have a bunch of students born in Australia. They'll have gone through Australian schooling. They'll know the acronym, the lingo. They'll kind of know the expectations of behaviour and how it all works, and it should just be fine, right? Like it's how complicated could it be? But then, of course, you remember adult education. There are some slight differences. So then, just think of the last time you were at university. You've got your mature age students, and they're obviously a very different clientele than your, fresh out of high school type graduates. So you add that layer of age and experience, including, I guess, and importantly, occupational experience as well. Which I think especially is important because if you think about well, I've been working in a bank for 20 years and I come to learn to be a teacher, and then the system says, oh, we don't pay you for placements, you might get $50 a day or something small like that, and you think, but I'm from private industry, that would never happen, we don't work for free, or people are giving up all their time on weekends to do marking. You think, oh, gee, that doesn't sound quite right. But anyway, and aside, but different levels of experience for these new baby teachers. Some of them might not even be baby teachers. They might be very experienced. Something else is learning to teach. But also then you add in the layer of different nations, different backgrounds. Well, I've been teaching for 15 years in China, say, or wherever it is, Nepal, and so I'm an experienced teacher in that setting, in that frame, with those students from that cultural background, and then I'm sitting in a class next to a student who was a year 12 last year, learning about how to be a teacher alongside the hypothetical banking experienced banker that I spoke about before. You can see how the differences in student background are starting to emerge, and especially if you've taught for 15 years in another country with a different pedagogical approach, that's significant as well. But to me, the most pressing and the most complicated element that I don't think people take into account in this particular discussion is just the diversity of schools and our schooling system. So, at a broad level, we all understand that there's Australia is, as our fearless leader, Pasi Sahlberg, is always telling us we're not leaders in excellence nor equity, and we have one of the more inequitable systems in the nation. Not in the nation, in the world, obviously. Wouldn't make sense in the nation, but you know what I mean. And so we know that there's inequity, but what that means for our baby teachers or our ITE is that we're training all this diverse group of people with different experiences and different backgrounds and different training and different skill sets and different knowledge. That's, I guess, for a teacher, that's a given and that's understood. But then you're sending them out on placement to such a diverse range of schools, and the skill sets and the knowledge and the techniques applied in each of those settings is so diverse. And I think that's the one thing that I want to emphasize here as being one of the biggest challenges, I think, of ITE in Australia. So just imagine, okay, one of the students in our room, they're heading off to a placement in Ballarat. Okay, so they're going out, out Whoop Whoop way. They'll be teaching, probably a predominantly Anglo-Australian cohort, not a higher percentage of language background other than English, and so forth. You've got another student, they're going to, say, a tech school, and they're delivering content, in a sort of similar to an excursion model, where they have groups come to them and then leave. Then you might have a student who's, they're teaching in a weekend language school. So again, very different cohort of students within that setting, different expectations. Everything's different. Then you, of course, have got your religious schools. So, where I'm going off to a Muslim school, say, that's different expectations around behavior, content, additional subjects to be taught, and so forth. I think we all have sort of, or even if you add in an extra layer, I'm going to autism specific school, I'm going to an SDS school. All of these are just so dramatically different, but then they're all completing the same course in the same lecture theatre and sort of all those sort of things. So just, I think the missed element is the way that the inequity within our system creates such bizarre and strange differences across schools, that it makes it incredibly difficult for anyone trying to deliver ITE to deliver that effectively, because they need to somehow keep in mind all of the million possible multitudes that the students will then go out either to do placement in or to teach within full time. So just something I thought was important to note and to think about. But until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep learning.